I mean, you and I have known each other a long time. Can you imagine how offensive that is to a British Muslim? Let me ask you to put yourself in the shoes of a British Muslim, and can you imagine how offensive that feels?
Nigel Farage was on Sky News with Trevor Phillips saying Muslims do not belong here, Muslims are the problem, Muslims are less patriotic, Muslims are behind the immigration problem. He is totally against Muslims being here at all. Even when Trevor gives him 2 opportunities, Nigel continues to cast blame on Muslims. This man is a racist and doesn't deserve a single vote by any Muslim or any reasonable level-headed individual. Let's take a look.
We have a growing number of young people in this country who do not subscribe to British values, in fact, loathe much of what we stand for. So what do you do?
Who are we talking about there?
Oh, I think we see them on the streets of London every Saturday.
What do they look like? Oh, we're talking about...
What do they look like?
Are we talking about Muslims here?
We are. And I'm afraid I found some of the recent surveys saying that 46% of British Muslims support Hamas, support a terrorist organisation that is prescribed in this country. So we've been, and what's interesting is that this Prime Minister is building up far more of that population than anybody before in history.
Well, this is very interesting, and we don't have that survey in front of us, but let's just unpick what you've just said. Are you sure you want to make the blanket accusation that you've just made that Muslims are somehow less patriotic than other British people, because those people on those demonstrations are British?
Did you watch the recent elections that took place up and down the country?
We don't know that, and we don't know they support Hamas. Would you like to revisit what you said at all?
Let's be clear. There is a growing population of people in this country, a lot of them very young, who have recently been voting for and electing candidates, right, up and down the country, in inner cities, who stand for a set of values that are completely, not only don't subscribe to our values, but in many cases are totally against our values. And the marches, there were some on those marches. Equally, there were lots of upper middle class girls called Jocasta on those marches as well, and I understand that. But we have to face the fact, and at some point, by 2029, the Labour Party will have to face the fact that they started a policy of irresponsible, open-door immigration, but nobody in history has allowed more people in who are potentially going to fight against British values than Mr. Sunak. And if you look at those figures last week, if you look at the sheer numbers that were coming in last week, you really have to ask yourself some questions.
Nigel's got his head so far up his own backside, he doesn't even know the meaning of British values. 5 main values to being British: democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty, mutual respect, and the final one, tolerance of different faiths and beliefs, which he clearly doesn't have. He talks about a survey. Which survey? I, as a British Muslim, do not recall receiving a survey asking if I support Hamas, lying to prove his own BS. Nigel then says there's a growing number of people up and down the country supporting, electing candidates that do not share British values. Mr. Farage, you idiot. This is a democracy. That's the whole point. And if people want to vote for those people, they have a democratic right to do so. That's their British right.
Is this the thrust of the reform campaign, that actually immigration means that our values are threatened, and particularly we are unhappy about Muslims? Because that is a pretty incendiary proposition.
We have never before seen anything like this. You think about West Indian immigration into Britain, the post-World War II.
I think of very little else.
West Indian immigration into Britain post-World War II. You know, there were a lot of shared things there. Shared history, shared culture, shared religion in many cases. Most families that came could say one of their family had served with British forces in World War I, World War II, love of cricket. You know, the list goes on, but there were commonalities. And, you know, as you know with your previous job, the key to immigration is integration. If you get integration, it works. What we've done is, and this works on several levels. We've done...
I'm going to stop you there, and I'm going to say 2 things.
Well, here's the difference.
No, I'm going to tell you something about the difference. First of all, you're right, I come from that stock. But let us remember that my stock, my ancestors, for the best part of 700 or 800 years, were Muslims until they were forcibly converted to Christians by slave owners. So when you talk about Muslims as hostile to British values, I've got to say, I don't really. Let me finish what I'm going to say. I don't really see I don't really see how you arrive at that conclusion. And secondly, trying to say to me, you know, actually, you guys are not really like these other guys. I mean, you and I have known each other a long time. Can you imagine how offensive that is to a British Muslim? Let me ask you to put yourself in the shoes of a British Muslim, and can you imagine how offensive that feels?
How many people from your community fail to speak English?
How many people?
From the West Indian community don't speak English.
We all speak English, but actually so do most Indian Muslims, so do pretty much all Pakistani Muslims in this country.
I can take you to streets in Oldham where virtually no one speaks English.
I've been there too, but honestly, come on.
The point I'm making is this.
Serious.
I am not here to attack the religion of Islam, but I am here.
Well, you've just been doing it for 3 minutes.
No, I haven't. I'm telling you the alarming figures that have been coming out of these recent polls, particularly in the wake of what has happened on October the 7th and in Gaza, and we have a real problem here.
Nigel was asked again and again by Trevor if he wants to change his opinion on Muslims. Not once does he do that. If he was to do that against the Jewish community, he would be called for being anti-Semitic. So why is this attack on Muslims so acceptable? Nigel then talks about World War II. How many Muslims died fighting for this country? In World War I, close to 100,000 Muslims died. In World War II, close to 1.5 million Muslims died fighting for Britain. And people like Farage are telling us that we don't belong here and that we've not integrated enough. The problem here is not the hard-working people of Britain. The problem here is people like Farage inciting violence and promoting segregation and removal of Muslims.
I want to get on to
and that's apart
I want to get on to politics, but I just want to be absolutely clear, and I want to give you the opportunity to be clear, because everything you've just said suggests that the Reform platform for this election is every problem you face is down to immigrants and in particular to Muslims. Is that really what you're saying?
No, actually, most people aren't yet affected by this because the areas with anti-British values tend to be geographically, at the moment, very tightly concentrated. But they do pose a problem.
But you're not resiling from blaming that community.
I'm blaming elements of that community. I'm not blaming them, I'm stating a fact. All I'm doing is stating a fact. No one else dares tell the truth about this. On the broader question, the biggest single problem this country faces is the population explosion. And it will not be debated in this election. Why? Because Labour started it and the Tories accelerated it. And that has led to problems.
Guys, it's not a fact without data to back your arguments. All he's doing here is telling us what he really thinks of Muslims. And if someone like him ever gets into power, first it'll be the Muslims and then it'll be every coloured person in the country. If we're talking about facts, crime against Muslims has only increased year on year. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Support me by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you all on the next video. Peace out.